This is ANN News Brief.
Teachers in government-run secondary schools in and around Liberia's capital, Monrovia, have gone on strike over salary arrears and other concerns. The strike began on Monday with the teachers demanding payment of their August and September salaries. Thousands of students affected by the teachers' action staged street protests on Tuesday and then gathered in front of the presidency and other locations to draw President George Weah's attention to the situation. Police reportedly got in the way of protesters and many of the student demonstrators were treated for wounds. Riot police were seen on Wednesday outside the presidency to stop the students from continuing their protest. Education Minister Anso Soni has been trying to persuade the striking teachers to give the government more time to process their salaries. Authorities in Guinea have confirmed that 9 persons have been killed so far this week during demonstrations against a possible constitution amendment that will enable the president to extend his tenure. ANN had reported that security forces clashed with protesters as they blocked roads with burning tires and ransacked military posts in the capital in Conakry. Opposition parties say at least 10 persons were being killed, including a 14-year-old boy. They also say police raided victims' families' homes. Demonstrators are protesting against the possibility of President Alpha Condé running for a third term. 81-year-old Condé took office in 2010 and his final 5-year term should end in 2020. He has not ruled out a third term. Instead, he has asked his government to look into drafting a new constitution, which critics say aims at letting him run for a third term. Guinea's opposition members and civil society groups called for a second day of demonstrations on Wednesday after Monday's deadly protests. Meanwhile, 8 opposition leaders accused of organizing protests against the president are reported to have gone on trial in Guinea. Health workers said demonstrators were shot dead by the police. We'll return after this break.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow the story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
South Africa's power utility company Eskom has warned of a second day of power cuts on Thursday, citing a number of generating units still out of service. Eskom imposed its first power cuts on Wednesday, citing technical failure and inadequate funding. State Utility said in a statement that it would cut around 2,000 megawatts of power on a rotational basis across the country. Eskom also said more than 10,500 megawatts of its 45,000 capacity was offline because of unplanned breakdowns. Late on Wednesday, it said some generating units have already returned to service and it expects more units to return to service over the next few days. That is the ANN News Brief. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, nnafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I'm Lucy Ademi.